didn't last week when we tried it.
Yay, we are so excited.
I know, it's awesome, but it's all good. So we're pretty stoked. While we're all just kind of warming up here, I'm gonna start sharing the love and sharing the links with everybody, and help everybody see what is going on, because we've got good info
We do the
to
best.
share with you guys. So we're pretty excited about it. So how are you, lady?
Well, I was good until the window on the skylight next to us broke, and so I have workmen going in and out of my door all day. It's fun.
Oh my goodness
It's
sakes.
not my skylight, it's the neighbors, but to get to it, you have to go off my balcony. So
Oh wow. And rappel down to the street and jump back up again and all that other good stuff.
not quite that complicated, but still. How about you? How are you?
I don't have anything that dramatic going on. Ah, that is so funny. Well, I'm glad you're here, and you're in Switzerland and I'm in Virginia, and life is good, right?
Life is good. And surprisingly, even though we're on opposite sides of the planet, this pandemic brings us all closer together because we're going through the same things.
I know, it's absolutely insane. Everybody kept saying, "Well, it's going to be the new norm. It's going to be the new norm," and I'm like, and I'm just like, well, I guess it kind of is a new norm, isn't it?
It's interesting to see how things are going to change. Yesterday, Switzerland officially relaxed some of the regulations, and so a lot of people are back to work as of yesterday. A lot of people in retail, and they opened up hardware stores and beauty salons and tattoo parlors, and because there's nothing more important than your quarantine tattoo.
Of course, but that's all. It's all good.
It's all good. It's all good. So, and in the US, some things are starting to open as well, with a lot more scheduled to open on May 1st.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
So,
we're gradually doing it. We've got we've got to roll out. I mean, the good news is that it's all up to the state, so it's not controlled at the federal level, because like everything and everywhere else, it's all depending upon where you are. Life is just different.
well, it is. It's totally different. I mean, if you're living in New York City versus rural Iowa, I mean, there's just no comparison, and the rules should not be the same for those areas. And heck, if you're living in New York City versus living in upstate New York, the rules shouldn't be the same. It's just
Yeah.
different.
Nope, I hear you. So, but it's all good.
Yeah. So, but coming back to work isn't the easiest thing, and not everybody's excited about it.
No, who do you know that's not excited about it?
I know a lot of people that aren't excited about it. People that were receiving or are receiving more money on unemployment than they will get on a paycheck are really not excited about it.
No, and that's a struggle for employers. I mean, it's a real struggle for employers.
It is, and CNN ran a story of a woman who owned a spa, and she got one of these payroll protection plan loans, and she was super excited. And she calls up all her employees and says, "Hey, guess what? We're, come on back to work." And they were all upset with her,
Yeah.
and they didn't want to come back. And the article kind of played it off as, look at these selfish employees who don't want to come back because they're getting this free government money, which is such an irony because she's getting free government money. It's not like she's good and holy and they're bad. Both of them were getting free money.
Yeah.
Um, Although there's nothing as such as free money, but that's another topic. Um, but they are also spa employees. And so until those spas can open up and start operating on full capacity, they're not getting tips. And a good chunk of their income comes from tips. So it really is asking them to come back not only for less than they get on unemployment, but less than they get normally.
Right.
And that's a huge problem in a lot of industries.
Yeah,
Uh,
I agree.
Whole same problem. If no one's buying, I'm not getting any commission. So why should I go to work?
Yep. I know. And, and for, like you said earlier, some of these people, you know, $600 a week is more than what they generally make. I mean, they're
And that's on
making more.
top of your state unemployment.
That's right. So they're looking at this as like, I'm making more money being unemployed than I am going back to work and being employed.
Right.
And in some respects they're right, and in other respects it's kind of like, well, you know, if they're in an industry where social distancing will decrease their ability to make more money, through their tips or, side earnings or whatever, then yeah, I mean, a lot of people are succumbing to that. I refer to it as a temptation because I mean, we're still dealing with an ethics issue here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But the problem is that as soon as your employer offers you a job back, you're not eligible for unemployment anymore.
Right.
And if the employer doesn't say anything, then the state doesn't know and you can continue receiving your check.
Right.
But if the employer reports it, which legally they're supposed to do,
Right.
you're at zero. And
Yeah,
now you have no job and no unemployment.
that's right. And you know, uh, and that's the thing, is that we have employers out there that want to do the right. They think that doing the right thing, and it's a small complement of it. It's not a lot of people, but it's a small complement of it. And some of these employers will say, well, you know what, they don't want to come back. I don't want to deal with the hassle of that, or I don't want to deal with the conflict of that. And what they'll do is they'll just leave them on unemployment. It's like, well, then those employers are now violating the law. So there's if everybody's trying to look at this from a perspective of, what's the biggest win-win? There isn't a win where your employee gets $600 a week plus, state unemployment, and you can just go ahead and not deal with the conflict, and still move forward because you got other people that do want to come back. That's just that's a mess, and it's likely that it'll come back and bite you.
It's likely that it'll come back and bite you. That's absolutely correct. And from the employee standpoint, you say, yeah, I don't want to come back. I want to keep this unemployment. And even if your boss doesn't report they've offered you a job, this $600 bonus ends in July.
Yeah.
And fingers crossed, we'll all be back to normal in July. There's going to be a lot of people unemployed. Why would your previous employer want to hire you back?
Mm-hmm.
They won't. And then you're competing with other people.
Yeah.
It's a short-term gain, but it's not guaranteed to make you better off in the long run. I
Right.
guess it's slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is now, before all of this happened, right? Before everything started to shut down, before we had social distancing restrictions, we were in an employees market, which meant that we had more positions open than we had people to fill them. It instantly flipped to an employer's market. So
Yes.
if you're watching this and you're an employee or an employer or whatever, for employers, this is a benefit because it gives employers the opportunity to find the right talent more strategically. It's challenging for the employee because they're, like you said, they're competing with other people looking for the same job. If in this situation, who loses out? If somebody's making the determination that I want to stay on an unemployment, it's going to be the employee that loses, because these jobs are not going to ramp up quickly, because right now these positions that are available and that people are looking for to fill are all frontline positions dedicated to helping us keep the supply chain moving forward.
Right. I mean, I know that several states opened manufacturing plants on Monday, and those are jobs that are necessary for the supply chain, which is getting weak. And one of the things, I live in Switzerland, which is the most organized place on the planet, and I'm surprised they haven't kicked me out because I am a virtual disaster. But I was at the grocery store last night, and for the first time, some of the shelves were empty.
Yeah.
And So if supply chain problems are happening in this country, which is so incredibly organized, I mean, they plan years. I'm not joking. They plan years in advance for everything. Um, then I can't imagine what it's like in the rest of the world that isn't so neurotic and organized. You know, supply chain issues are a huge deal. So it's important not just to the economy, but to our actual survival that these factories and these processing plants and all of that get back up and running. Um,
Right.
and and so if, I mean, I look here, it seems ridiculous. Some of the things, like I said, the hardware stores opened yesterday, which I know they've been open pretty much everywhere in the US, but they weren't here. You know, if someone from those hardware stores said, I don't want to come back, well, there are thousands of restaurant workers who still can't go back that would take that job in an instant. So see ya.
Yeah, it is. And then, now this is different. This is a very different kind of conversation than what we're having with the people that are at risk, right? The individuals that have health concerns. And that's a whole different problem right there. That's a whole different challenge.
It is a whole different challenge because it's not even, I mean, we can say, oh, well, you're lazy and you shouldn't want to just stay home. There are some people that the extra money aside, and not everybody gets extra money. Some of these people, the unemployment, even with the $600 bonus, is not more than they make.
Right.
There's quite a few people that way, actually. They did it as a median income goal. So half the people are making more anyway. But there are people with serious health concerns and people with childcare concerns. Schools are not opening. Most states have said that's it. We're done with school for the school year.
Mm-hmm.
What you gonna do with your little darlings? Are summer camps starting yet? I don't think so. Are summer camps going to start at all? I don't know. That's a legitimate thing. And if you work for a small business under 500, then you're eligible for assistance.
Yeah.
But if you work for a bigger company, you're not. Childcare isn't a valid reason for FMLA.
No.
And half of the population does work for a bigger company than 500.
Yeah, and well, not to mention with FMLA, I mean, even with the EFMLA, you only get 12 weeks in a year.
Right.
It doesn't like you don't get right EFMLA and then regular FMLA either, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've
It's
got
only
that.
a one-time shot.
And if you've been doing that already, I mean, depending on when your state shut down, I mean, if whatever that is, EFMLA. I have a lawyer friend that calls FMLA FEMLA, and that's the worst. Anyway, I mock him all the time.
It's all right. I have an employment friend who refers to it as shrum, and it drives me crazy.
Shrum, oh gosh. Shrum and FEMLA. We should introduce them. We should. That would be a good thing.
Well, she's awesome. So.
Well, he is too, but yeah, he gets roundly mocked every time. But I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, you've already been on it for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
4 weeks today, because today's the 28th, and that started on April 1st. So you've only got 8 weeks left. 8 weeks is not going to take you to school starting again in August.
Nope.
It's not. So all of these things are real concerns. These are not just people being whiny and saying, I don't want to work. I just prefer to sit home on my couch and watch Netflix. Actually, everybody's freaking tired of sitting on their couches and watching Netflix. Yes. And a lot of people would love to get back to work, but what do they do with the kids? Yeah. And what do you do if you have health concerns or if you have family members with health concerns? And businesses have got to sort this out. And frankly, the experts aren't helping, because you can find an expert to back up any view you want to have right now. So
what do you do?
What do you do? And then businesses also think they're being nice when they're not necessarily being nice.
Yeah.
I got an email this morning from a woman who said she was really upset. She said, I'm 60 years old. I've worked for this company for 13 years. I always get high performance reviews. They called back my coworker who is a poor performer, um, and called her back today, and I'm still furloughed. Is this age discrimination? And it may well be. That doesn't give me enough information to know why they called one back and not the other.
Right.
But it's possible that the boss said, "Oh my gosh, Jane is 60. That puts her in a higher risk category. We'll call in Heidi, who's 22, and he's trying to be nice.
Yeah.
It's not nice and it's not legal."
No, and that's, and that's the thing, is that employers have to realize that, there's absolutely, look, we are absolute advocates of doing the right thing and doing what's in the best interest of your employees, hands down. You will not ever get an argument from us that that's not the right thing to do. The problem is doing the right thing and not putting your neck on the chopping block unnecessarily. And that's what a lot of, especially in small business where they don't have a dedicated HR person, that's what happens in small business very, very easily. It happens every day. And across the country, no one is immune to that mindset, because they don't, it's not in, right? It's just simply they don't know. And they don't know where to go. They don't know who to speak to. And that's why, people like us exist. But that is a very common thing that will happen, is that, it's like, I want to take care of my employees, but there are lines that are easily crossed, and they are sometimes are not very clear to people that really don't have the background knowledge or the experience, or they've never, it's never bit them back for it. And then, there's some businesses that are just like, you know what, screw it, come get me. And you know what, at some point the government will, because right now, I read another article yesterday that is exactly what the government's doing, is that they're not actively looking for violations. They're going to look for violations afterwards.
Yeah, although they are, I mean, the Department of Labor has already fined businesses for violating the EFMLA, and heaven knows the Department of Labor thinks they are essential workers, so they're still going, and you can get yourself busted.
Yeah.
And in this situation, if I assume the best of everybody involved, which I like to assume the best, they could be thinking they're doing something very kind.
Yeah.
And instead they may be violating the law.
Yep.
And regardless, they're making this woman unhappy. And if she's their star employee, which she says she is, and I have no reason to doubt her, they might lose her. What if she goes and gets another job?
Yep.
And their attempt to be kind gets them in legal trouble and in employee trouble, that she's gone forever. And she can still sue.
Yep.
She can go find another job and she can still sue. So yeah.
And not to mention, and this is something there's only been one other time that I've seen something like this, and it's in the DOL has a massive campaign to reach employees, to make sure that they understand what their rights are, and it's huge. It's also written in the I wouldn't call it the preamble of the law, but the information is out there on the Department of Labor's dedicated coronavirus webpage, the COVID-19 webpage that they have. And the only time I've ever seen such an active, fierce statement that the government is dead on serious about this is over in the preamble of the American with Disabilities Act. In the preamble of the law, I've never seen another law that has this in the preamble, but it actually will advise you to go get legal advice if your rights are being violated. And they're just as serious about this too. They're very, very serious about this.
They're very serious about it. And it's good on the one hand. On the other hand, the law is so confusing. There's so many loopholes. There's so many gray areas. And because it targets small businesses, down to the smallest of small businesses, there's a lot of people that just are trying their best, that are good people and would comply if they understood how to comply.
Yeah.
And, you and I have discussed previously how much time and effort we put into understanding these laws.
Yes.
And we have strong backgrounds in HR. We understand FMLA. We have resources. We have lawyer friends we can call upon. And there are still questions that come up. There are still questions that I get that I have to say, I have no freaking clue.
Yeah.
And one of my articles I wrote last week, I got an email from a lawyer saying, you quoted this other lawyer and I disagree. And I'm like, well, that's why we have lawyers.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, because of the way how this law is written, employment attorneys, and you and I are seeing it left and right, nobody really fully agrees with each other. I mean, it's like they agree with shades of each other, and we just simply don't have the luxury of litigation to fall back on right now. This is brand new and it's temporary and it'll go away. And that's when we'll see, once it goes away, that's when we're going to see this wild ramp up of all of these court cases and things, cases where the DOL is holding companies accountable, and that's when it's going to get wild. So,
but it'll be wild in an interesting way, because if it goes away, which it should, that's not something that we'll ever need again. So it's like with FMLA legislation, you go through this court case and you get case law, and it builds and it builds and it builds, because FMLA has been the law since when, 1993?
Something like that, yeah.
It was Bill Clinton anyway. No, was it Bill Clinton or was it George H.W. Bush? I don't know.
It's been around.
It's been around. I think it was Bill Clinton. I think the Americans with Disabilities Act was the first Bush.
Yes.
I don't know.
That one, right? No, that was him.
Yeah, then FMLA is Clinton.
Yes.
So I think 93-ish.
Right.
Anyway, so we have many, many years of case law to fall back on. But this, we'll get all these court decisions and all these DOL rulings, and then we'll just throw them in the garbage because
it's done.
It'll be through the courts after we're done with it.
Yeah.
We hope.
But this is like, for us, this is an awesome time for us, because it's challenging us to our full professional capacity. And this is like, the way I look at it, it's like the equivalent of an IT department and their server goes down and the redundancy goes down at the same time. Like, they get excited because this is everything that they've studied and trained for, right? This is the worst case scenario. And they get into it, and actually I had that happen when I worked at CarMax years ago. Our system crashed. And I mean, nobody had email. I couldn't fax. You couldn't even hardly make a photocopy of something. Stores were, handwriting automotive deals. It was something else. I mean, it was pretty cool. By the end of the day, literally, we were still selling cars and we were still bringing in money, but we didn't have email. We didn't have anything. And so what happened? So it's that kind of thing. And it's just like, we were laughing about it because the IT department was coming back. They're like, this is so cool. We've studied this for years and we've never been able to do anything about it. And it's a great experience. And it does, it tasks us, it challenges us, it makes us think through these hard things, and how we can share that, within our organizations and internally. But at the same time, it's exhausting.
It's exhausting. And I do see a lot of people trying so hard to do the right thing,
yes,
and sometimes falling flat on their faces, and trying to balance that right thing between the law, the company, and the employees. And with business owners, they think about businesses like they're their babies, and you never go to a new parent and say, gosh, your baby is kind of ugly. You don't.
Unless you're really drunk.
Unless you're really drunk. And you know what, to be honest, there are ugly babies out there. But no parent thinks that their baby is the ugly one. And that same way with business owners, they don't think that their business is the ugly one. And they're willing to get up in the middle of the night and sacrifice everything for this business. The employees are not. They're like babysitters. They come and they go.
The owner's business is not their problem.
Yeah.
Their life is their problem. And that's, we're not saying that that's bad. That's just, it is what it is.
Yeah. It's not bad. And that's actually how it has to be. Because otherwise, when things go bad, then you've got people emotionally attached as well when you have to terminate them, and you don't want that.
Yeah.
But because of that thing, the babysitter thinks differently about the kid than the parent does.
Yeah.
And in this situation, the parent needs to think like the babysitter, or the business owner needs to think like the employee. Yeah. What will make my employees happy? What will make them secure when they come back to work? And we've talked about the financial thing, but there's also safety issues.
Absolutely. I had to deal with one the other day, and we had an employee that was out for a couple of days, and of course you don't discuss what's going on with that employee with other employees, because he was not well, but he was not inflicted with COVID-19, right? He wasn't inflicted with the coronavirus, and there was a couple of chain events that happened, but the end of the day, everybody was nervous about it. It was the first case in that particular location, and then upon his return, and it was not well received. And it's just an indicator, talk to the management, and it's like, guys, remember, emotions are just high everywhere. We're frazzled. We're concerned about making our bills. Some of us are working with a little less income because our employer had to reduce it just to survive.
Right.
There's
right.
people there's people that are on a reduced schedule. Excuse me, you can tell it's spring. People are working a reduced schedule, so they may not be bringing in as much money. They may have had to miss paying a mortgage or something. You know what I mean? It's like, and then on top of it, their household has literally been flipped upside down, not in a bad way, but it's out of the norm. Kids aren't in school, kids are home, and they have to, that's one added pressure on top of their head. It's like, I have to take care of my kids while I'm either working at home or not working, working outside of the house, right? And do I bring this stuff in, and do I get my kids? It is just a lot of things for people to consider on top of it. So emotions are running high. And so that means that business owners and leaders, if you think that your employees are going to act a certain way, plan for about 3 or 4 more other possibilities, and you are likely to hit the wide range of emotions on how people are going to respond to your actions. But that, and like I was talking to the CEO of this company, is that, bringing this person back wasn't the wrong decision to make, and how it went about. I mean, the company kept this person out for longer than when they were required by the physician on purpose, just to make sure that symptom free, right?
Right.
And bringing him back, everybody expected to learn what was going on with that person, why they came back, and they wanted those details, and we just had to reset the expectations. Like, we're not going to discuss that person's personal information with you, just like we wouldn't discuss your personal information with anybody else. And they did start coming down off of it, but
well, and it's tough because we're naturally nosy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we go into HR, right? So that we can learn everything about everybody.
Sure.
But we don't talk about it. We just learn it. No, people are naturally nosy, and then these are things that they think will affect them.
Yes.
And it could. I mean, if you go out because you have cancer, I can be sad, I can be supportive, but I'm not worried that I'm going to come down with cancer tomorrow because you gave it to me. You go out with suspected COVID-19, and now I'm afraid that I'm going to be written up in the Washington Post as one of those people that was seemingly healthy and just dropped dead of a brain aneurysm, or whatever they're saying that people are dropping dead of. It's scary. And even though the statistics say one thing, if you're one of those outlier cases, you're one of those outlier cases.
Yeah.
And it's scary.
It is. And even though you can, and this is what we walked away with. It was communicated appropriately, right? We had put communication out to assure that the company is doing everything they need to do in order to observe, monitor, and determine paths forward. And it still didn't make a difference. And that's the evidence that emotions are just running that high, and that nerves are very brittle right now. It doesn't, it almost, it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of a thing. But you still do the right thing in light of that, and then you just manage what comes your way as it comes. But it's just this constant reinforcing of just reinforcing the positive message and the message that moves forward. And to be honest with you, if somebody is going to get overly concerned to the point where they don't think that their employer is doing the right thing and the employer is doing the right thing, and they leave, that's fine.
Yeah, and that is fine. But there is also a consequence to that,
Sure.
which is you're not eligible for unemployment.
That's right.
And that's a huge deal. And that's not just like a threat that an employer is making, it's just a fact of life.
Reality.
If you are choosing not to work when there's a job available for you, then you give up your unemployment. And
Yeah.
part of that puts a lot of pressure again on your frontline low paid workers.
Yeah.
If I'm making, $350,000 a year, as all freelance writers do, by the way, that's a joke. Anyway, theoretically, I should have money saved up, and I can not, I can take some time off. If I'm working the front lines at Walmart, which heaven help us all, and thank goodness for these people that are willing to do it, chances of me having a huge trust fund or savings account are pretty slim.
Yeah.
So walking away has a much bigger impact on lower income people than it does on higher income people. And of course, in every problem in the world, money doesn't necessarily solve problems, but
Boy, it sure makes it better though
or
sometimes.
makes it better. Yeah, I mean, it does. It's easier. I mean, of course. Then again, I read this article in the New York Post about these rich people in New York, and Brenda, you're gonna cry.
I'm already kind of laughing, you can tell.
Their servants, due to the stay-at-home order, had to stay at home and couldn't come take care of these people. And so for the first time in their lives, they've had to make their own food and do their own dishes. And it's very sad.
You're
So
dripping
hard.
sarcasm. You're just literally dripping.
I mean,
take a handkerchief and just wring it right out.
yeah, it's just so sad. The suffering.
Are you the clown? Well, hey, it's everybody's adapting to life right now.
Everybody's got to adapt. Everyone's got to adapt. But it is harder.
So we started going down. Okay, you got me laughing again. I do. When I laugh, my eyes water. I can't help it. This is the way it's me. I've always been this way. But something that we started talking about that we didn't really go down is we want to go back to the individuals who are high risk, right?
Yes, let's do it.
So we also talked a little while ago about how some people, when they opt out of coming back in upon recall, there are things that people can do. And at some point in time, I tend to take a little bit more of an initial hard-nosed look at something, and then I get softer. That's just how I think through. That's how my process thinks through, right? Is I go to one and then I just start bringing it down, and I think about what's right versus going soft and then working on a harder consequence. But what we're looking at here is if you haven't, at some point in time, we have to lead through compassion. And when you're talking about people who are high risk, the individuals with cancer and they're asthmatics, and there's actually a new paper that's going to be coming out that physicians, I think like 6 or 7 physicians are writing this collaboratively, that individuals with low um, how is it, like low levels of symptoms related to coronavirus are suffering strokes.
Oh,
So there's a new development, right? So, and we don't know a lot about this, right? I mean, we had a
right.
physician.
It's all new.
Yeah, we had a physician who has been working on the front lines over in New York City, and she returned to Charlottesville with her family, and she committed suicide over the weekend. And
Oh
oh yeah,
no.
yeah. So it's impacting people, right? So we have to lead by compassion. And that was a horribly tragic story. It's in today's news actually, and it's really really super sad. And so there's this general fear, but what do you do with the people that are at significant risk? Because they're faced with the exact same circumstances. If they say, listen, I can't come back to work, I'm at risk. I just got done with my X round of chemo and I'm cleared by the physician. I don't have cancer right now, but I'm at risk of catching this stuff in a populace, and there's nothing that my employer can do. And the employer says, okay, that's fine, stay out. That cuts the unemployment off lawfully.
Right. Right.
Some employers may risk and lie and just say, well, I never call them back, right? We're going to leave them
Right.
out. We're going to go ahead and allow them to keep it and allow them to pay, or we're going to, pay them for their paid sick leave or whatever. And there are employers that are going to do that. Eventually that's going to catch up with you and bite you in the butt. But what can you do and still do, everything is hard balance, and you can't own your employees' issues. But what you can do is that there are alternatives that you can take. If you recall your entire staff and you've got your high risk individuals, you can allow them to stay out on a personal leave until there is clearance to come back in. Know that they are likely going to try and go out and get some form of income, but because the personal leave is an unpaid leave, right? It's not something, unless you've got deep pockets and you can do that, understand that you set a precedence in doing so, but that's something that you can do, and yet still maintain that very delicate level of balance of doing what's in the best interest of the employee and doing what's in the best interest of the employer. That's something that you can do.
You can, although it's very important that you don't force your high risk employees into that,
Absolutely.
because
Right.
that then crosses the line of an illegal discrimination, whether it be an Americans with Disabilities Act or a pregnancy act or an age discrimination suit. All of those things can put you at higher risk, but also it has to be the employee's choice.
Yeah, you can extend it as an option.
Yes.
It's an option. I think that's the big key takeaway. You can do it, but it's extended as an option, because right now at that point, once you make that recall and your employees are telling you what their desires are, you have to leave it as the employee's option.
Right. And you can't push it, even if you think, oh,
Yeah.
this person needs to stay out. It has to be that employee's choice.
Right.
You can't override that, even if you think
Yeah.
it's a death sentence for them to come back and work on the front lines or whatever. You could also work out some sort of a deal. 65% of jobs in the US cannot be done entirely from home. So most people need to be physically on site. But there's a lot of jobs that 75% can be done at home, or 50% can be done at home, or something like that, in which case you could bring someone back part-time.
Yeah.
And that could also be a solution. And depending on your state, they may have a work shares program that allows you to collect partial unemployment while you're working part-time. And that might be something that would be really good for a high risk individual who wants to be back at work, but can't be in the office. What small part of their job can they do at home, which allows them to receive a paycheck, but then through the work shares program, receive partial unemployment, which could be a really nice balancing thing for everybody.
Right.
So that's something worth looking in. And of course, every state has their own rules and regulations. So I can't tell you exactly how to go about it, but check with your own state. They will,
Yeah.
it's an option
It is. And
in
and
some
that's
cases.
and I like and that segues into a really good point here is that, there are rules and regulations, but there are some that are starting to get relaxed. There's a couple of them that are starting, like the EEOC is starting to relax and waive some regulations that they would normally, under regular circumstances would be, heavy on. So, I mean, Virginia's in the process right now of actually passing a ton of HR laws. And one of the things that they've passed is, actually filing certain suits against employers. So you do have to know what's going on.
You do. So it's also very important if you're going to make some big change to speak with your employment lawyer. And by employment lawyer, I mean someone local to you.
Right.
It's all fine and good to have your friend that's in another state, but state laws control so much of employment law. You really need to double check. And it is always worth the money to ask than it is to have have to pay your employment attorney to come in and rescue you from your mistake.
Yeah. Depending on who you call, it'd be the best $50 or $350 you'll ever spend to keep yourself out of a $50,000 to $350,000 lawsuit. Really,
Yeah.
it will.
And those numbers, those $50,000 to $350,000, that's if you win. That's not even if you lose. If you go to court, you're shelling out that money, and even if you win, the employee doesn't ever have to repay.
That's right.
It's but if you lose, you have to pay the employee's attorney's fees, which is why so many employment lawsuits settle out of court, because it's just fiscally responsible for the business.
Yeah.
Which, side note, is why you can't ever judge when a business settles with somebody. You can't ever say, oh, well, they obviously were guilty. They may have just looked at the numbers and said, it'll cost us $350,000 to take this through to court. We won't receive a dime of that back, even though we're completely in the right. Yeah. Anyway, that's a side note, but yeah.
So, boy, did we digress there, didn't we?
Oh yeah, that's the problem. Is I have this kind of, I swear, the older I get, the more scatterbrained I become, and like all these ideas coming.
That's all right. I did a podcast episode last week with a friend of mine. We were on the phone and he goes, "You have to prevent me from being on a tangent." And I'm like, "Don't worry about it. I got your back. It's all good." And I'm like, "Rein it in, baby. Rein it in.
Rein it in. Rein it in. Impossible.
Yeah. But but that's the thing is, like, we start talking about that's when we actually do these things. We meet ahead of time so we can say, okay, this is what we're talking about, because if not, we'll just go and we'll just run, because it's all these yeah buts and have you thought of this, and then there's this circumstance, and that's the complexity of HR.
Well,
there's no easy answer.
There is no easy answer, and that's why I find these new laws so frustrating, is that they hit the smallest of small businesses. And frankly, it's just unfair that Jane, running her 7-person shop, needs to have the same understanding of these laws and these complex things as Steve with his 500 employees, that can have 4 full-time HR people on staff. And it's tough. It's really tough to comply, and it's tough for the employees to know what their rights are as well, because contrary to popular opinion, not everybody follows employment law like we do.
No, they don't. Some people know it and they just go chuck it right out the window.
Yeah, I mean, you see the headline and you just go,
really?
Not going to read it, not going to care.
Yeah.
You don't know your rights. And even maybe you don't see the headline.
Yeah.
But you should, because you should be paying attention.
Because that's important stuff.
It's important stuff, but so many people don't know their rights, and especially under these new things, these EFMLA, Even this payroll protection plan loans, that's been somewhat of a disaster. It's been a lot of a disaster. And then that money allowing us employers to keep employees or call employers back hasn't gone like everyone expected because of the high level of unemployment compensation that you're receiving. And there's just consequence after consequence after consequence. And the legislation was passed so quickly. And I'm happy to see that the Democrats and the Republicans, they worked together, but I think they were both so intent on getting the other side to sign off on it that they both let through ridiculous things. And now that's the law.
Yep.
And we have to deal with those consequences. And it's not easy. Not easy.
No, it's not easy. It's just, it's complicated. I mean, there's nothing easy about our system of laws. There's nothing easy about any of it. And, we're just trying to do the best that we can. That's the big key right there. We're all trying to do the best that we can.
Yeah, and I think that's true. And I think it's true for the most part with business owners and with employees. I don't think that there are a lot of employees out there going, haha, I want to be lazy. I think
I agree.
they are more likely to be concerned about things, to
Yeah.
have those childcare issues, to have the health issues, to be concerned that they won't be getting their full paycheck if they're commission sales or if they're tipped employees. And then concerned about the long run as well. And that's something the business owners are really concerned about.
Yeah.
They take out this payroll protection loan. If they can't keep their employees on, it becomes a loan. They have to pay it back. But if they can't keep their employees on, with what money are they going to earn to pay it back? That's like, it's really stressful for them. So you have them freaking out, trying to save their business, which, remember, is their baby, their adorable baby. And it's scary. And if we had a chart that we could say, oh, for sure, by this date, everything will be fine, then we all hold our breath and we can do it. But we don't have a date.
Nope. Well, we don't. And it's, your date may be different than my date.
Yeah. And, like I said, Switzerland started to reduce their restrictions on Monday. And, but the federal government said specifically, we're going to watch. And there's no guarantee that next week they won't say, no, this did not go well. We're going to have to pull that
We're gonna have
back.
to reinforce. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is that we do have a risk of a second bloom.
Yeah.
And, and as much as it drives me batty, I'll be honest with you, it drives me batty that people are looking back at the Spanish flu, right, of the early 1900s, which to some degree I agree with looking back. And part of that is, and what I don't agree with is that they didn't have modern medicine like we do today. So, but it is a pandemic nonetheless.
Right.
And one pandemic will be different than another, but there are some similarities. But the one that I do agree with, that I think we should be mindful of and be paying attention to, is that once we start repopulating, common areas and going and opening things up, we are at a very high risk of, we started talking about flattening the curve earlier, and which, is one of the new buzzwords that's come out of this, buzz phrases. But that may very well become a reality very quickly, within a week, if people who may not be as susceptible or be as high risk are all of a sudden now really facing the challenges of the coronavirus. And, our hospital systems will get overwhelmed very quickly.
And especially because everybody said, unless you're dying, don't go to the hospital. All non-emergent doctor's appointments were canceled. Now everybody that needs their medications checked and that may have been having some chest pains and it wasn't so bad, now we all flood back.
Yeah.
into
Right.
that system, and it's going to be a problem.
It's
And of course,
taxing.
we don't know for sure. That's the other thing, is that we don't know. And so it's so hard to plan. And so I can't blame anybody for making a guess differently than my guessing.
Yeah.
This is my guess. And, I went to the grocery store without a mask on, and I'm comfortable with that. But that's a choice I'm making for me.
Right.
Is that the right choice? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
Just don't know.
We don't know. We don't
Yeah.
know. And is it going to save your business if you take out a payroll protection plan loan? And are you going to be able to keep your employees paid so you don't have to pay it back? Or is it going to put you another $150,000 in debt and you're going to lose your business anyway?
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't have that crystal ball. And then
Yeah.
are people, even if the disease goes away, which is not going to go away, but even if it lessens, are people's behavior going to be different?
Yep.
I'm not buying concert tickets, even if they're starting them. Not that I ever bought concert tickets before, but if I were a concert ticket buyer, I wouldn't go.
Yeah, and we've got the big national SHRM convention that's
Yeah.
has not been canceled yet. May 4th is the big date that they're gonna announce what they're gonna do with it. And I started, that, and I love going to this thing. It's a blast. It rejuvenates me. I meet so many really amazing people. It gets me, change of scenery, and it's awesome. It's literally, over 4 days. It's a total of 3 days of consolidated information, access to things that you don't normally have access to, and it's awesome. But it also has 20,000 attendees, and it has an additional 10,000 headcount between, vendors at the expo, employees, volunteers, the speakers that come in. It's a lot of people, and
Yeah.
this year's it's taking place in San Diego, and then of course the Tuesday night concert, which is Lionel Richie, which is awesome.
Oh man.
I know, right? So anyway,
it's clearly geared towards old people like us.
yeah, don't say that because we're getting in that category, and I'm not willing to admit that just yet. But anyway,
when your junior prom theme is playing as the background music at the grocery store, that's when you know you're.
He is a musical legend. We'll just leave it at that.
It is. I love Lionel Richie. I'm going to listen to that after we finish this.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So.
Go on.
But anyway, if they decide, like, if San Diego, permits this to go on, and SHRM takes it under account, I'd like to know how 30,000 people are going to social distance. Now, granted, not as many people will be going, but part of me hopes that there's something that they can do to keep this alive. You know what I mean? I'm hoping that we'll be able to do the convention virtually and see the lectures and still get the value of the information. I have no idea what they're going to do. I have no tap in, but man, am I going to miss going to that thing. I was so looking for. I was to spend 2 weeks in San Diego, and I'm just really hoping that something still happens just to keep things alive, because I think for HR pros right now, I think it's vital that people get some sort of purge and relief. I think it's vital that business owners and business leaders get some form of relief, because it is stressful. It keeps you up at night. And I mean, I've been having weird dreams the last couple of days, and it's all like historic stuff. And I'm just like, I need to disconnect myself and do other things that help free up, the right side of my brain versus just the overpower load of the left, which is what's been going on. So we're tired. I mean, all of us are tired, and we'll just face it. But we'll see what SHRM does. It'll be interesting.
We'll see. And my bet is that they'll cancel.
That's my bet too, but it would be great to see them doing something virtually if they can swing it.
If they can swing it. But yeah, I agree with you. People need that type of a break.
Yeah.
And right now no one's getting it, and it's a tough thing. It's not so easy right now.
Yeah, it is a tough thing. So we got 5 minutes left. This is our first live stream, so we're pretty excited about this. We did a first attempt last week, and what we recorded was awesome.
It was brilliant.
We can't get it loaded. But but so here's the premise of what we're doing. So we're going to be here every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are going to be streaming this live until further notice.
Till further notice.
That's right. So we're excited about this. Our goal and our mission is to talk about real HR, current HR topics, reaching out to other HR professionals, reaching out to business owners, or leaders in industry. Look, we're here. We're here. You guys can meet us at the table. You can go ahead and put your comments in on the YouTube channel as we're talking. Ask a question. We're notorious. We love to answer questions, right?
We love to talk. You might have noticed.
Yeah, not at all. So, so we're excited about this, and this is going to be great. This is fun. We're still designing what all this looks like, but right now we're just going to talk about current HR stuff. And at some point in time, we're both going to get sick about talking about the coronavirus. So having your questions will be great.
We're already kind of sick of talking about the coronavirus.
We're past it. No, I lied. We're to there. But you know what? We understand that you guys need help and you need assistance. You need a fresh look at things, and we got that. And between her experience and my experience, we've got
you covered.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What would you say? We've got somewhere. I would say.
How long have you been in HR? I've been in HR for 21 years.
So I've been in HR for just about the same, but I've been in retail a lot longer. And in doing retail, you do part of the HR role.
Sure.
And so I've been in business and in retail for about 30 years.
So we've been there. We've done that.
We don't even have enough toes to count all of that.
Because we're old. Because we like Lionel Richie.
Well, don't say it.
We're excited about Lionel Richie. That's what gave it away. That's what gave it away.
Music.
It is good music. It is good music.
Hey, you know what? If Sherm gets Duran Duran in, then I will admit that I'm old. That's the only time I will admit I'm old. If they get Duran Duran in the concert, I will admit that. But so far, that's not happened.
Are they even still together?
Yes, they are. I just downloaded their most recent album the other day.
Yeah. They have a recent album?
Yeah, they've been in business. They've been touring.
They've been together a long time.
They've got an amazing career, and one album does not sound like the other, and they're awesome.
I'm gonna have to go listen because I was not aware. I mean, I remember going to the library in junior high and checking out Duran Duran records from the library.
Well, I would be open to having any member of Duran Duran on as a guest. I don't care if we talk about HR or not, but that's all right. It's all good.
That's our offer. And,
that's right.
And Lionel Richie too. We'll take him. and Billy Joel. I am so down with Billy Joel.
There you go. Cool. All right, folks. So
there we go.
Here's where you can find us. I know we're ramping up here for a good one. All right, so we got 2 minutes left, maybe. And so here's where you can find us. So we are out in the, I call it the Oracle, which is known as Google, but we are out there. You guys can find us. So first off, you can find us at therealhrshow.com. And you'll find a profile for Suzanne. You'll find a profile for me. If you want to connect with us, all you have to do is click the buttons down below. If you want to read our most recent blogs, listen to podcasts, or whatever it is that we're up to, plus our social media, you can find us on therealhrshow.com. So you can contact us. And if you need help, you're welcome to reach out to either one of us. You can book time with us, easy day.
Yep, we are available.
Yep, absolutely.
And we're fun.
And we are fun. And you can also find us too so I've started a community back in January, and it's the Next Gen Women in HR community. You can find us on our dedicated Facebook page. If you want to join us, you're welcome to do so. If you're an HR professional, you'll have a couple of questions to answer coming in, and you have to answer them. Otherwise, this is a moderated group. These are people who are actively engaged in solving the HR problem. And so you can find us again at the Next Gen Women in HR Facebook group. And there's a lot more information when you get in there. So I hear the church bell ring, which means it's 10 o'clock. So
All
Suzanne,
right.
it was awesome.
It was good to talk with you. And we should
Absolutely.
talk
Hang on
next
the
week.
line. Hang on the line, and you and I will chat a little bit more. But for everybody else, you guys have an awesome, awesome rest of the day. And we will talk to you next week.